Friends, welcome back. Today again I am here with you to go on with the first lesson of class 8. Now today we will be going on with the second part. I think you have learned the first part, you have gone through the first part. The first part ends with the narrator found a roll top desk and the roll top desk was in a bad condition. From the roll top desk he found a secret drawer, and in the secret drawer there was a letter written to Mrs. Jim McPherson. It was also mentioned that the letter was the last letter by Jim McPherson. So who is Jim or who is Jim McPherson? We are going to learn about him in this second part. Sorry. So the second part goes on with the letter. Dearest Connie. So Connie is the wife of Mrs. Jim McPherson. I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. So something good has happened and which the narrator wants to tell. We were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning. Trench means long deep hollow which are like tunnel cut on the surface of the land so that the soldiers can stand there and they can fight against their enemies. Christmas morning it was crisp and quite all about as beautiful a morning as I have ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. The Christmas morning was very good, and such type of Christmas morning which the narrator, that is the writer of the letter, wanted. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. So this was something which they began. But the truth, I am ashamed to say, is that Fritz began it. What is Fritz? A new term, right? Fritz is a certain name given to the German soldiers. The German soldiers who are fighting in the World War I, they are called Fritz. First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Someone from our side saw a white flag which was being waved from the opposite side. Then they were calling out to us across no man's land. Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas. Here Tommy is also a common name given to the English soldiers. The fight was going between the English, that is England, and Germany. When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back, "Same to you, Fritz, same to you." Someone in the England trenches, they shouted back to them, "Same to you." I thought that would be that. We all did. But then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey coat and waving a white flag. "Don't shoot, lads," someone shouted. Someone in the trench shouted, "Don't shoot that particular person who is standing with the white flag." And no one did. Then there was another Fritz up on the parapet. Parapet means on the flat surface of land. And another, "Keep your heads down," I told the men. "It's a trick," but it wasn't. The narrator thought that it was a trick, but it wasn't a trick. One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. "It is Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps." Schnapps are drinks made from grains, from food grains. They are healthy drinks. Sorry. "We have sausage. We meet you." Yes. By this time there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, and not a rifle between them. There was no rifle, there was no gun between them. Little Private Morris was the first up. "Come on, boys. What are we waiting for?" And then there was no stopping them, and there was no stopping. Everyone was moving from the opposite side or from our side. They were moving into each other. I was the officer. I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose, but the truth is that it never even occurred to me. I should. But it never occurred to the narrator that he should stop them. Right. All along their line and ours, I could see men walking slowly towards one another, grey coats, khaki coats, meeting in the middle. And I was one of them. I was part of this. In the middle of the war, we were making peace. There was war, and in the middle of the war, they all were together and they were having peace. They were making peace among them. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Frid's officer, who approached me, hand outstretched. From the Frid's officer who was coming ahead, his hand was stretched. He wanted to shake hand with me. Hans Ulf, he said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. So his name was Hans Ulf. I am from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas. He said that he was an orchestra member. He used to play cello there. Cello is an musical instrument, almost like an violin, but it is bigger in size. So he said, Happy Christmas. Captain Jim McPherson replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in west of England. From west of England, Dorset. I am a school teacher. Ah, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. The narrator knew this place very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage. And we talked, Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English, but it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, never been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. From the books of Thomas Hardy, this particular man, that is Hans Ulf, got to learn about Dorset. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. So, out there is no man's land. We talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel Oak and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. Everything. They were talking about everything. They were sharing everything. He had a wife and one son, born just 6 months ago. As I looked about me, there were hurdles of khaki and grey everywhere, all over no man's land, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, eating. Everyone from both the side, they were happy, they were having fun all together. Hans Ulf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. The Christmas cake, we were sharing it. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. I agreed. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. He was my enemy, but we agreed about everything. There never was a Christmas party like it. There was no Christmas party like it, Connie. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Grey coats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew was Tommy against Frizz out in the middle of no man's land. So in the no man's land, they were playing. Hans Ulf and I took on and cheered, clapping our hand and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. To keep out the cold, they were enjoying. There was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. He saw it too and smiled. Jim McPherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war. A football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives becomes widows. So no wife are becoming widows. No children are orphaned. So this is the best way to decide the winner. A football match. I would prefer cricket, I told him. When we Tommies could be sure of winning, probably. We laughed at that. and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Connie, Fritz won 2-1. The Fritz, the German, they won the match. But as Hans Wolf generously said, our goal was wider than theirs, so it wasn't quite fair. But Hans Wolf himself said that our goal post was wider than their goal post. The time came, and all too soon, then the game was finished. The schnapps and the rum and the sausages had long since run out, and we knew it was all over. I wished Hans well and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon, that the fighting would end and we could go all home. And they wanted the fight could end and everybody would come back home. I think that is what every soldier wants. On both sides, Hans Wolf said, "Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you." He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly, I felt. So narrator felt that Hans Wolf, he told that everything they had between them should be resolved, and that is what everyone wants. And after that, when he was moving away, the narrator, that is Jim McPherson, he himself thought that Hans Wolf was not willing to move away. He turned to wave us once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. Now they were moving back towards their trenches. That night, back in our dugout, we heard them singing a carol, and singing it quite beautifully. It was Silly Natch, Silent Night. Our boys gave them a rousing chorus while shepherds watched. We exchanged carols for a while, then we all felt silent. We had our time of peace and goodwill, at time I will treasure as long as I live. So this was the time which they wanted to cherish, which they wanted to share throughout their life, which they wanted to keep as memory in their life. Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, this world will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. This will be a terrible memory by next year. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. Whatever happened today, from that I know that both the sides, both the armies, that is England as well as Germany, they wanted peace. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. Your laughing Jim. So the letter ends that there is a hope of rejoining, that they would rejoin with each other, they would be in peace again. So that was the letter which Jim has written to his wife. So that's end the second part. The third part is left, which we will be doing the next day. Thank you.